feedback using the hashtag checkpoint, so please do get in touch with us. We have lots to discuss today. Of course, that letter from the EACC clearing Waiguru of any wrongdoing, and the developing story with Justice Tunoi. 14 days. We wait to see, of course, how that tribunal will decide. We have Senior Counsel Ahmednassir Abdullahi. Thank you. It's good to have you on Checkpoint. First time. Karibu. So I'd like to start from the beginning, because you were in the JSC from 2010 to 2013. And essentially, you and your team vetted the individuals we have now in the Supreme Court and employed them. Do you regret that now with everything we're seeing? Some say you're the one who put Tunoi in office.
First, one correction in your report. You said Tunoi is the senior most judge in the Supreme Court. He's not the senior most. The Chief Justice is the senior most, then the Deputy Chief Justice, and then he goes down there. But I have no regret. I mean, I'm proud of everything we did in the JSC when I was there. I think we did a fantastic job. I mean, we picked the best 7 Kenyans who applied for the jobs. So when you see Tunoi, he was one of the best 7. Even with those baggage, he was still one of the best 7.
Yeah, because he did have baggage coming in.
Yes, he had baggage, of course. But you see, I mean, the JC picks the best. I mean, there are guys who apply. There are better guys who didn't apply, but it's not our job to persuade people. Our job is to advertise, we interview. It was very rigorous. You remember when we were interviewing, people were complaining that I'm very rough with some candidates, that I'm asking a lot of questions. I mean, if you don't ask questions, how do you interview someone?
So no regrets?
Absolutely no regrets.
Tunoi was the best for the position at the time, would you say?
Yes, he was among the 7 best. Yes.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the judicial reforms, because many, including yourself, call them superficial and nothing much changed in terms of the structure. Tell us why you think we find ourselves in this position right now, after having that vetting with Ringera, Justice Sharad Rao, the JSC itself, a very powerful organ to vet and chooses people and present those names to the president, and yet we still find ourselves discussing corruption at the highest court, no less.
No, we have to appreciate judicial reforms first in the wider context. There are excellent judges, both in the Supreme Court, in the Court of Appeal, in the High Court, and even in the magistracy, who are doing fantastic job, who are doing wonderful job, who are setting standards in terms of property efficiency and discharge of their function. But that doesn't mean that there are many corrupt judges in all these levels. I mean, they are there just because. And I have said in an article I published in the Daily Nation, this is Kenya. I mean, Kenya is a corrupt country. I mean, you don't expect the judges to be saints, because the society which they grow, where they practice law, where they come from, is a very corrupt society. So even when you vet, when you interview, and when you try to get the best, there will still be some who will skip that and join the judiciary. The important thing, and this you should really give credit to the JSC and the Chief Justice, is that every time there is an issue in the judiciary, unlike the other arms of government, the JSC and the Chief Justice address this issue. They don't hide these things like other arms of government do. I mean, when we had problem with Paraza, the JSC handled it. When we had problem with Shole, the JSC handled it. There are many other judges like that and magistrates who are being fired every day. So the important thing to appreciate is that every time there's a problem in the judiciary, it will be addressed in an appropriate manner.
Some say there's selective justice with this case, that it's happened a lot faster, and that there are other cases and other petitions, particularly by the LSK, taking a look at the conduct of other judges, Supreme Court Justices Jackton Ojwang, Mohammed Ibrahim, and Joaquin Dungu, for the events that took place last year, but that this one was fast-tracked because it's more than corruption that meets the eye.
I can tell you as a former member of the JSC that the JSC receives hundreds of complaints every month from judges, on judges, by lawyers and litigants. Some of them are frivolous, absolutely frivolous. And there's a vetting, sifting process. And before a case goes steps, there's investigation, there's a prima facie case, all these things. I'm aware of the Law Society complaint, and it's going through the process. But I don't think it will succeed. I don't think it raises the threshold to a level where you need to investigate the judge. The issue they're saying is that the judges were on strike.
Yeah.
And the JSC wrote to them, and every judge said, I was not on strike. We were doing work, we did this, I was writing this judgment. But you see, it's not every complaint that's made against a judge that the JSC will appoint or advise the president to appoint a tribunal.
All right, so why should this one then attract the tribunal? Because you say
This
not
one,
every
yes,
case
yes.
is...
No, this one was huge. I mean, the scandal was huge. $2 to $3 million. We didn't know that they were this expensive, you know. I mean, we know corruption was there, but this is the first time we're hearing $2 to $3 million. And I think the evidence was overwhelming. If you look the affidavit written by Kiblagat, I mean, it's also overwhelming. I mean, it was the details, the dates, the figures, the place. When you look at all this, nobody can say that this does not raise a prima facie case. Add that to the affidavit by the judge himself, where he admits, you know, almost that, you know, I was there, but the bag contained something else. He doesn't say what it was, but I think the JSC acted because the evidence was too heavy.
All right, yet you also waded into this one. Initially we had $2 million, but you have claimed on your Twitter account that it was a little more than $2 million. It was $3 million,
yes,
and
yes,
that there were others who were involved. Would you care to shed some more light on those allegations?
No, I don't have any information that's not in the public domain. I only read the affidavit. If you read the affidavit, the 2 million, they talk of it. Then there's paragraph 24, 25, where, you know, the PA to the governor says that, leave alone the 2 ladies. Those ones we have sorted out. So if you look at the calculation of how much money the judge was given, and he's talking about 2 ladies, my view was that the calculation was that, I mean, the going price was $500,000 per person. So there's that extra 1 million. In my view, it's about $3 million.
And who are these 2 ladies, do you think?
I don't know. I mean, everybody knows there are 2 ladies in the Supreme Court. But whether he refers to that or not is for the JSC to investigate. And I think that's the next step they will take.
Okay.
Because there's need to ask those guys, whom were you referring to the 2 ladies? There are rumors that there were 2 ladies who were carrying the money from one place to another. I don't know.
Governor Evans Kidero says you are partly behind his woes. And he has this on record that you approached him, you wanted to represent him in this matter. You asked for a 25 million shillings down payment. And when he refused, that this is now a vendetta. And some say, well, this is now why you are going on Waititu's side, to ask for a review of that judgment by the Supreme Court.
You see, I mean, I don't go to clients to beg for briefs. I'm too busy for that. I mean, lawyers don't call clients and tell them, you know, there's this case, we hear you are involved, can I represent you? No. We have offices.
Was it ever him who came to you then?
Yes. We have offices. People come or they come through Sarpa. In this case, he came through a muzee called Haj Khalif. Haj Khalif is his long-term partner when he was in Mumia Sugar. Haj Khalif picked me from his office in his car and took me to his house. And Kidero was there, we sat down. So they said, Haj Khalif, because he's a friend, I know him a lot. He said that I must represent. I told him I have no problem, but this is my fees. He said that's too much, but I told them this evening I'm meeting Waititu's people. If they bring my fees or if we agree, then that will be the end. So since we did not agree with Kidero, I agreed with Waititu on that same evening. The rest is history. But why should I call Kidero and tell him, you know, I want to represent him? I don't do that.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's talk about this, what you want to do, and you're saying you will go ahead and ask for a review of that judgment by the Supreme Court. Some say this is premature because the JSC and the tribunal that is yet to be formed within the next 14 days has not been constituted, has not sat down, and therefore no hard evidence against Tunoi in this case. What will you be basing your request to review that ruling?
It's actually for the client to decide. We just give advice. But my view is that there's, you know, where the case is now, what has come to the public, the fact that there is a prima facie case of bribery, 2 or 3
not necessarily bribery. They talked about, you know, misconduct.
If you read the press statement by the Chief Justice, he talks of a prima facie case. Yes, that's good enough to seek a review.
But not against the bribery allegations, but just against, you know, inappropriate, you know, contact between the judge and, but not necessarily bribery.
Yeah, that is good enough.
Okay.
Yes, that is good enough to set aside that judgment, that there was inappropriate contact between, and we don't need a finding actually. If you look at the affidavit by Kiblagat and the affidavit by the judge himself, those 2 is enough to persuade a reasonable tribunal, which the Supreme Court is, that judgment should not stand. And there's a lot of case law, many parts of this world.
Okay, but interestingly, will this not need a 7-judge bench to rule on? The same 7-judge bench that was a part of that hearing in this same petition with Kidero and Waitito. So some say this is a conflict of interest.
No, it requires just a 5-judge bench. The Supreme Court is lawfully constituted when there's a 5-judge bench, and we have a 5-judge bench.
Okay, do we not see a conflict of interest? 2 of them, Rawal and Tunoi, are out, of course,
yes.
But the other 5 sat in that same petition. Will it not be a conflict of interest that they're now being asked to review their own ruling and judgment that was had before?
There's no conflict. I mean, what's the conflict? I mean, it is in the interest of the court, it's the interest of the country to appraise their decision in light of the evidence that has come. That even though there is no allegations against any of those 5, one of them who is not present conducted himself in a such manner that brings into disrepute the entire decision of the court.
But some say then, even if Tunoi was hypothetically given this money, it wasn't his decision alone. He sat in a 7-judge bench, and that either he had to have had some serious amount of influence on his 6 counterparts, or that the money was shared. And some then saying that it's not just Tunoi, but indeed everybody that sat on that ruling, and it was a 7-judge bench that involved the Chief Justice as well, and that him presiding over this process with the judiciary, the JSC subcommittee, and then giving the report, just raises a great conflict.
I mean, people put a lot of premium in the purity of the stream of justice. If there's a slight pollutant in that stream, it contaminates everything.
Okay.
So even though there were 7 judges, and Tunoi probably did not even participate vigorously, that stream of justice has been polluted. That is good enough.
So should they all go home?
Not them. The judgment should be set aside.
All right, but you said it pollutes the whole...
Pollute means here the decision, not the court itself, yes.
But the decision was made by the 7.
Yes. But
and money was given to 1, and the decision is made by all 7.
Yes. That now the judgment of the court is the one that's contaminated.